Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here with a little bit of nerd news for you. So let's talk about some stuff. First, I want to talk about how it just broke today that Jodie Whittaker is in fact out as Doctor Who as of next year. This has been something that's been rumored for a while. There were repeated reports that Jodie was leaving Doctor Who, and it now turns out that that's true. We are, however, going to get 6 episodes in 2021, and then in 2022 there are going to be 3 specials, I guess, and then she's done. We're going to have a new Doctor after that. At the same time, Chris Chibnall is leaving, so we'll have a new showrunner, a new head writer, and all of that. So, shakeups at the BBC and Doctor Who. Some of the folks that have been, I guess, rumored or hoped for as a replacement, as the next Doctor, are people like the gentleman from Bridgerton who played the Duke, whose name I forgot. I'll have to put it up. Also, the kid, and I call him the kid because I'm 50 and he's 20-something. The kid who plays the main character on Sex Education on Netflix, which incidentally is a show starring Gillian Anderson, who incidentally has been thought of in the past as being someone that could be the Doctor. This was back before Jodie Whittaker got the part, so I don't know if people think of her in those terms anymore. I think she'd be great. Of course, she's not really English, but she does live in England. She speaks with an English accent. Anyway, they're considering that kid. I think he's a very good actor. I think he's too young to play the Doctor. I don't think it would work. I think the big news here, though, is that Chibnall is leaving because, you know, we're sort of accustomed to having each Doctor around for only 3 seasons or so. So that isn't really surprising. We have, of course, had different showrunners and different, head writers over the past, I guess it's 16 years now since the reboot started in 2005. So, again, that's not terribly surprising either, but to have them both go at the same time, I don't know that that's happened before because I don't think he was in charge when Capaldi was there. So I think he came with Jodie and he's leaving with Jodie. I could be wrong about that. But I don't think we've seen that before since they rebooted the show in the early 2000s. I will be sort of sad to see Jodie Whittaker go. I thought she did a good job in the part. A lot of people didn't like her in the role. They didn't like the fact that the character was female, with her in the part. So those people are happy. There's nothing saying it won't be another woman, so I don't know how happy they're going to be going forward once she actually leaves. I've found that any problems that there may be with Doctor Who in the past couple seasons weren't related to her. I think they were related to the writing. In her first season, they went a little bit too woke. They went a little bit too SJW, and it sort of ruined it. They did dial it back in her second season, but I think it just rubbed people the wrong way. So they sort of blamed her for that because she's the face of the thing. But I think it was really Chris Chibnall. So, he's the showrunner and the head writer, I guess, and all that. So I'm hoping that the show will improve. But I don't think any improvement will be because we went from Jodie to someone else. I don't think she's any part of the reason it hasn't been as good as it used to be before her. Anyway, we've got a total of 9 more episodes with her, and it'll be a good year before anything happens. So we have to sit tight. I'm going to cross my fingers for one of the people that I think should get the part to get the part. Now let's talk about news of the DC EU. They have cast their Batgirl. There was a bunch of speculation in recent weeks as to who might get the part of Batgirl in the DC EU. We now know that it's gone to Victoria Cartagena. She's going to play Batgirl. She has already played a DC Comics role. She was Renee Montoya on Gotham. And in the comics, Renee Montoya was the protege and successor of the original Question, whose name was Vic Sage in the comics. So that's kind of cool. She already has a DC Comics connection. This casting is not sitting well with everybody because, of course, she's not a fair-skinned redhead, and people are accusing DC of, race swapping the character, and I suppose they are. She's not a particularly dark-skinned woman either, so I don't know. It remains to be seen what they're going to do. I hope that she has red hair. That's a trademark of the character, so they should definitely do that, even if it's not the precise shade of red that, comes from the comics and other iterations of the character. But I do hope that they do that. Sticking with DC and going over to Legends of Tomorrow on the CW, news has come out that Matt Ryan is no longer going to be playing Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow because they're retiring the Constantine character from that show, and his involvement with the show going forward will be as another character, which it seems is an original character to the show that doesn't already exist in DC Comics, and that's the character Dr. Gwyn Davies, spelled Gwyn. So that's the character he's going to play in season 7. He won't be playing Constantine anymore. How they're going to write Constantine out, we don't know. The very next episode of Legends of Tomorrow that's going to air is going to be a Constantine-centric episode, and there are only so many episodes left in the season at this point, so I don't know. I don't think it's going to be right away, but he's going to be written off the show, and then the next time we see Matt Ryan on the show, he's going to be playing a completely different character. I'm glad about that in one way and not glad about it in another way because I like Matt Ryan as an actor. So I'm glad he's not leaving the show, but I really liked his portrayal of Constantine, so I'm not happy that they're retiring the character from the show. And my wife is beside herself because she's really into his portrayal of the character. She reads the comics that John Constantine comes from, and she was a big fan of the Keanu Reeves film, but she really liked Matt Ryan's portrayal when his show first debuted on NBC because they seemed to be writing it more faithfully to the comic than the Keanu Reeves version had been. So she was really sad when that got canceled, but then really happy when he was brought into the Arrowverse. But now he's leaving the Arrowverse, and she's not happy about it, and she's further not happy about it because of the reason. Apparently, J.J. Abrams is doing a Constantine show for HBO Max. And all of a sudden, Warner Brothers is once again concerned about having two different versions of the same character in two different mediums, TV versus film. So they're forcing the Arrowverse version of the character to go away. And I think that stinks. It wouldn't be so bad if they were just going to take Matt Ryan and transplant him over, but they're not doing that apparently, because apparently they're looking for an actor of color for the part, which obviously isn't Matt Ryan, and which, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't care so much about, ancillary characters being race swapped, but I don't think they should change the races or genders of main characters of stuff. Superman, Batman, Constantine, Wolverine, Daredevil. I don't think they should be doing that stuff. So, unless they're going to change the alter ego, right? Because Miles Morales is not white and he's Spider-Man, but he's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker is still the same guy. So I'd rather them do stuff like that. I don't think that's what they're going to do. So, yeah, she's not happy. But again, he is still going to be on the show as this Dr. Gwyn Davies character. Davies is an eccentric scientist from the early 20th century, and apparently he's going to be the team's only hope of something, or they're going to play it off like he may just be the team's only hope of something. I don't know what, but that's what it said in the article that I read about it. So that's happening. Switching over to Marvel, apparently Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney over the Black Widow film. And the reason for that apparently is that her contract with Marvel, which I don't know why it's not a contract with Disney, seeing as Disney owns Marvel. Even if Disney didn't buy Marvel until after she signed the contract, you'd think it would convert over to a Disney contract since they're the same company, or one is the parent of the other. I don't know. But she's suing Disney because her contract with Marvel made it such that her pay was at least partly dependent on the box office for the film. And she was promised a theatrical release only for this film, which of course didn't happen. They released it in theaters, but they also released it on Disney Plus at the behest of Disney. So that reduced the box office take at the brick and mortar theaters, and therefore reduced her salary, her pay for playing the part. So she's suing Disney for breach of contract. I find that a little confusing. I'm no lawyer, but I understand basic contract law, and you can't sue an entity with which you don't have a contract for breach of contract. So I don't know how that makes any sense. If the situation is such that her contract is with Marvel and not Disney for whatever reason, even though they're part of the same company, then she needs to sue Marvel and not Disney, because Disney's the one that released the film to Disney to play over their service. She's suing Disney because it was at their behest. It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know how it is that she's suing Disney and not Marvel. She has lawyers. They know way more about contract law than I do. So I assume. So I have to hope they're doing right by their client. But I don't understand how that works. I don't understand how, for contract purposes, they're even separate entities. Because her whole case is Marvel promised me this, but then this is what happened with Disney, so she's suing them. It doesn't make sense to me because they're supposed to be the same company. They must still be separate on some level. And that's what's at play here. I don't know. I'm going to keep my eye on this. It'll be interesting because, if she didn't sue anybody over this and just let it go, then these companies could make these deals all the time. And of course, a company like Marvel is going to make a cut of the money from Disney. So I don't know. And for them, that works out if they were anticipating a lower box office because of COVID. So they don't have to pay her as much on the one hand, and they're still making money from the deal with Disney. So I think she kind of has to sue them because there needs to be a precedent set to keep companies from doing that stuff in the future. Not that we'll have a major pandemic like we had last year again anytime soon, but I think she has to sue them. I just don't know if she's suing the right company, but we'll keep an eye on it because it's an interesting story nonetheless. That's really all the news that I have for you, but I do want to indulge myself here and show you some footage and photos that I took when I visited the Star Trek, the original series set tour in Ticonderoga, New York, Tuesday of this week. It was very cool. I'd been wanting to go there for a while, finally made it out there. And I got to see all the replica sets that were used in the New Voyages or Phase 2 web series produced by James Cawley, which was excellent, by the way. And the sets were extremely accurate. It was just unbelievable how accurate it was. It was surreal to be in some of those rooms: sick bay, engineering, Kirk's quarters, the bridge. It was just amazing. All the sound effects were in place. There were lights going. So on the bridge, not only could you hear all the bridge sound effects, but through the whole tour, when you're walking through the hallways of the Enterprise and in engineering specifically, you could hear the droning of the engines. So it was like being in engineering. You're not only there, but you're hearing the engines get. It was a head trip. It was really doing me in. It was very, very cool. I sat in the chair, which was great. And it was especially cool because not 2 days before, William Shatner himself had sat in the chair. So I kind of felt like, there was like a little connection there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I felt. I've met him twice before anyway, so it wasn't like taking the place of actually meeting him, but it was very cool to have sat in the same chair that he sat in on the bridge of the Enterprise not 2 days after he sat in it. Anyway, let me run that footage as we close out. Okay, so that was my visit to the Star Trek The Original Series set replica tour in Ticonderoga, New York this week. Oh, they are in fact building Next Generation Enterprise replica sets, and they're supposed to be ready sometimes next year, summer, fall, something like that. So I do want to go back, and if that's something that you want to see, you should keep an eye on that and get yourself out there, because it's very cool. And if the coolness of the original set tour is any indication, the tour of the TNG set tour will be cool as well. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video when things warrant me doing so. Until then, I leave you, as always, saying peace and long life.